Welcome back inside episode 6 of the Connect the Game podcast. I'm your host, Tim Crowley. As we continue on our circuit of minor league broadcasters joining the show, it's the AA voice of the Milwaukee Brewers down with the Biloxi Shuckers. Javik Blake joins the show. Javik, thanks for making your first road trip appearance on the show and your first one in general.
I appreciate it. The road trips are always a good time to hop on the shows, especially helping connect the game here with you, Tim.
I would say you're usually the PR guy. Do you have your publicist scheduling all your road interviews?
You mean me? Yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
he's doing a great job. He's really on top of things, let me tell you. He's getting after it.
Well, there's plenty to talk about with the Shuckers as we move throughout the day, but certainly want to be on here to tell your story, which is a long and winding one throughout broadcasting. Now, I've gotten the cool opportunity to get to watch this pretty much from the beginning. Dating back to your days up here in Massachusetts, and we'll talk about how far and wide baseball has taken you. But how did this all start back in Norton, Massachusetts with, a love for being on air and 130 high school broadcasts?
Yeah, it started when I was in middle school. I was 12 years old when I called my first game. It got scrubbed from the internet, thankfully, after the pandemic. It was so funny to watch because I was 12 years old. We got knocked out of the Little League playoffs. We made a good run. It was the Norton Youth Baseball Softball Phillies. Got close, but we made it oh so close to the finals. We didn't win, so my consolation prize was I got to call my first baseball game because I wanted to get into it for the local cable access channel in Norton, and then that's kind of what started it. I did it throughout middle school and high school, obviously. Did not broadcast baseball because I was playing high school baseball up through varsity baseball in my senior year. So I called everything else but baseball, whether it was hockey, football, soccer. You and I did a softball game together at one point. There was
Yeah,
a there was a
multiple.
multiple. We did two of them together. One of them was a no hitter. So kind of everything but baseball, but all that other experience really helped me in the baseball world. Obviously, playing it for 13 years helped a lot in the baseball world and the broadcasting side of things. But yeah, so was in high school and middle school, called over 130 games, created my own sports network, the Lancer Sports Network, which, as you know, was just a way for me to call games with a name under it. So did that all throughout high school, and then worked 2 summers in the Cape Cod Baseball League at the Wareham Gateman in 2018 and 2019. Then went to college, did games at Elon University throughout my 3.5 years there. Spent some time in Indie Ball, the Northwoods League, and now here in Biloxi. So it's been kind of a winding and wild road that's now at this point 12 years in. So it's been really cool, and it's been really fun to be here in Double A at 24 years old and kind of looking back at the last 12 years of everything that's going on.
And do you take that time now? Like I know you and I talk about, how much the focus is on the future and you and I talk about, kind of the craft on a weekly basis. But do you take time to think about that now that like this is well over, 10 years and now we're starting to get older to a state where we can actually say, oh yeah, 10 years ago this is when this started.
Yeah, the ripe old age of 24.
Yeah.
We're getting up there. Watch out, guys. Coming for AARP. But no, I don't know if it's kind of, looking back, but every now and then I'll be like, because I have the Time Hop app on my phone that shows like what it's this day on your camera roll. And sometimes things will pop up and it's just really funny to see of like, oh, I was calling high school soccer playoffs 6 years ago, and today I'm calling Double A baseball. So that's really cool to see and to go back and stuff like that. But it's really funny to just go back and listen to some of the old broadcasts because my goodness, they're so bad. So it's really funny to listen back to those, and it's like, what are you doing wearing a Diamondbacks hat and a plaid shirt on camera for a basketball game? What are you doing? So it's really fun to look back and kind of relive those moments and see those memories and see how far I've come over the last 12 years, which it's you obviously get better with time and growing up as far as just your voice is concerned. But it's been really cool to look back at those stuff every now and then. Just kind of look back at it for a laugh and to see where I was, maybe 12 years ago in middle school and kind of how I've grown up since.
Admittedly, I do like watching our hockey stand-ups for the sense that my hair hadn't started thinning yet, but the vocal inflections and the overall presentation are stuff I could certainly live without. But again, that opportunity and all that experience created your path to Elon University, where it's safe to say faculty were very fond of you early, getting a shout out and the first on-campus, address when your class came in. Uh, what can you say about the Elon experience and the amount of opportunities that you had at a mid-major school that had some really good teams, particularly on the baseball side, which obviously plays for you.
Which is why I went to Elon, was the opportunity to call baseball. Because I called baseball, Division I baseball, winning Division I baseball, basketball, and I called soccer as well during my time at Elon. So it was really cool to get those experiences and to get that experience of calling Division I baseball, and especially being located in North Carolina. You play of the 56 college games, they play about 30 home games. So there's a lot of opportunities there to call games and get experience alongside what I was doing in the summertime, whether it was with the High Point Rockers or with the Fond du Lac Dock Spiders. To be able to get that experience at Elon was really big. And there were so many people there that were awesome, whether it's Taylor Durham on the radio side, it was awesome in giving me opportunities. Or even the people who ran our student radio station, WSOE, that, I got made sports director the spring of my freshman year. And that kind of gave me the ability to take the reins of the women's basketball side. We were the flagship station, and called Division I women's basketball for 3 years. So that was all really exciting and a lot of really great memories and moments throughout my time at E1.
And you were able to travel quite a bit too, which a lot of schools like they'll get out for the conference championships. You were on the road pretty consistently for basketball. What did you appreciate about that opportunity and kind of learning the grind of covering a team both at home and on the road?
No, it's so funny for basketball. On the road is so different than baseball. And I had my first real road experience was in the Atlantic League with the High Point Rockers in terms of baseball road trip. And what's that like? Because we travel on the road for basketball, and it's so different than baseball. Obviously, college versus pro sports is always going to be different. But no, it was cool to just see how you carry yourself, how you conduct yourself on the road. What's it like traveling with the team? Obviously, the team meals were also very fun. And obviously Division I athletics there, given to McDonald's at the hotel. So it was really fun to be involved with that. And it was great to get to know our coaching staff better as well. Charlotte Smith was the head coach of Elon women's basketball and still is when I was there. And it was so much fun to talk with her. She has so many great stories and memories from her time on the basketball side. So that was such a blast to be able to get that experience throughout college and travel with the women's team. Because again, we were one of the very, very few schools in the country that the student radio station is the flagship station of the women's basketball team or a team in general. So to have that opportunity was really cool. And again, Elon isn't a very large school, so there's not a lot of broadcasters, which meant from day one, I was able to get experience right away, which I think is a big thing about going to a smaller school, which about going to Hofstra. It's a little bigger than Elon, but when you're only competing with 12, 13 other broadcasters for reps, you get a lot of them, and everybody kind of gets their share. So that's really, really helpful and really big in terms of my growth at Elon.
It felt special again too. You mentioned the Hofstra part, and it was fun, for our years to be able to compare notes about teams that you and I were covering, too, like being in the same conference. I almost dropped a prop that we're going to show in a little bit. Just being able to hey, you guys saw William and Mary last week. What'd you see? Or all right, we have Drexel this weekend. What do you see from them? And being able to link up at the college, the tournament in Drexel for the conference tournament in 22. And then obviously the big one that, I still think about. I'm sure you called better things during your college career. But having you come up to Hofstra and be able to call a game together on press row for different, networks, that was cool to look back on and, know that a couple years ago it was LSN and then it was, each, doing play by play for a mid-major school.
Yeah, it was really cool. As long as you don't remember what actually happened in that game. I don't know if you
Oh, I
remember.
do. I do.
42-40, and both teams shot 15% from the field, which was wild to call. But no, it was really fun to get those moments and memories. A lot of those that we met happened off the court because then we got on the court. We lost in the first round in Drexel back that year. And then we went to you guys and we also lost like 42-40. So it was tough doing the on-court stuff, but no, it was always great to see you and meet up, and that was the cool stuff about going to the schools in the same conference, is being able to see each other. And it seemed like Hofstra always had Elon's number. It didn't matter the sport, like even baseball. I remember you came down for I think it was my 21st birthday, and Elon was playing Hofstra, and Elon got swept by Hofstra, and that was the year y'all made the tournament. So, it was fun to get those connections and memories, and it's always fun now whenever Elon's plays Hofstra, because we still get to chat about the rivalry of the Coastal Athletic Association.
Isn't that weird to say now? I still have to stop myself, but it's funny you bring up that trip and you had mentioned Taylor Durham and how instrumental he was in your development. We were talking while we were waiting for you to come out of the booth after the game, and he's like, this is a team that I think could be here in a few months. Obviously, in reference to Elon hosting the conference tournament that year for baseball. And Hofstra baseball had struggled for a while. I'm like, yeah, this is it was a nice series win, but let's see them sustain it. And sure enough, they did. And a few months later, at Latham Park, they came down and won a CAA championship. So yeah, I do enjoy that. On my graduation card in high school, it was a lot of "Go Phoenix," "Roll Elon," blah blah blah, and then Hofstra ended up taking some wins. But Elon was great for you, as was the summers during your collegiate career. I guess what we can kind of call like the learning opportunities. Doing so in High Point, in the Atlantic League, doing so in Fond du Lac in the Northwoods League. What stood out to you during those years? What did you learn about yourself as a broadcaster, and how instrumental were those in developing you into the grind of the baseball season?
It was big. And I learned that working in professional baseball is what I wanted to do. And one of the cool things about the Northwoods League is you and I have talked about a lot. There's no short season ball anymore. So the New York Penn League doesn't exist. The Pioneer League exists, but it's not the short season league it once was. The Northwest League is now a full season league. And there's no Appy League either. So like those big time short season, like 70 game minor league levels are gone. And with that, that's the opportunity where the Northwoods League really stepped in, especially when I was there. Because we got to do home and road games, and you played 72 games in 76 days. And I did 119 games and the normal 6 on, 1 off schedule in the Atlantic League with the Rockers. So those 2 summers really taught me what it takes and how to manage your body, manage your sleep, manage your workload in minor league baseball. Because what I did in High Point, what I did in Fond du Lac, is basically the same thing I'm doing now here in Biloxi. So it was a really great opportunity to work with some really great people, learn feel, which, as you know, is very, very big in a baseball clubhouse, and it can't be taught. You have to be in baseball to learn it. But to learn feel and to learn what it's like to be around a professional team, did that in High Point, just carried it on, and was, knew how to carry myself in Fond du Lac, and now here at Double A. It's much the same. So, it's really great to get that experience and so many great people at both those places. Jim Mijadek, the GM in Fond du Lac, who's nothing short of terrific. Steve Shutt, and Pete Fish in High Point were fantastic as well for bringing me on when I was 20 years old, to do stuff with them. So it was really exciting and really fun to be able to get those experiences. And I'm not where I am now without going to Fond du Lac and without going to High Point.
We're going to talk about how you got the Biloxi job in a minute, but is it still the record of fastest job ever offered and accepted with your High Point experience?
Oh, yes, it was. Oh, what was it? 63 minutes. It was during COVID. And the only reason why I did, because I was slated to go back to the Wareham Gatemen 2018 CCBL champions, in 2020. So I'd been there in 2018 and 2019 doing like everything in the back end and a little bit of broadcasting. And then I was going to be promoted to broadcaster for 2020. But as we all know, COVID happened. The Cape League did not play their season. And the only team, so I moved back to Elon for the summer because I moved into an on-campus apartment and it opened up in June. I was like, well, nothing's happening in Massachusetts. Like, I'll go hang out and, see what's going on for the summertime. And I had gotten like a part-time gig, at our school communications PR office. So I moved down to Elon, and at the time, the Atlantic League was the only team that had not announced they were canceling their season. Them and the American Association, because the Frontier League had already banged their season, because of the border, and the American Association was like, we may play. The Atlantic League hadn't said no yet. So I emailed them and said, hey, here's my tape. I'm a broadcaster. I know you guys haven't canceled your season yet. Is there any opportunities? And I got an email back within 55 minutes, had a phone call, and was offered an opportunity to help out as an intern, if they did end up playing their season. They didn't end up playing their season, but I helped out a lot of in-office stuff in the off season and throughout the summer. So whether it was helping out, with the podcast that the team did, helping out with some media guide stuff from the team and that sort of stuff. Helped out with all that sort of stuff. And then come 2021, I had already been there throughout the off season in the 2020 year. So got brought on as a paid employee, as basically a number two. But I ran a lot of the media relations stuff and that sort of things on that side. So it was a wild ride to get there.
Now, you fast forward, that experience all brings you to Biloxi. The process in the later months of a calendar year about getting a minor league job, for those that have gone through it, can be nerve-wracking, can be unclear. You're checking your computer every day. You're on teamwork, every hour. Um, when that fall of 22 rolled around, take me through the process that led you to Biloxi.
Yeah, so I finished up in Fond du Lac, and thought I had a good tape. And I had talked to our general manager, Jim Mijudek, and I talked to the Timber Rattlers. At the time, he was the owner. They just got sold to Diamond Baseball Holdings, but he's also their GM and their president. He does everything, Rob Zerjav. He's one of the only owners I've ever seen in my life cut grass of a college summer league field so we could play a game that night, as the owner of the team, because they own the Dog Spiders along with the Timber Rattlers. And I'd sat in his office at the very end of the year, and we had talked about, my summer and stuff. And he's one of my favorite people in baseball. And we talked about how, you know, there's a way I could probably graduate early from Elon, and I want to work in minor league baseball. And he was the one, along with Jim and our manager at the time, Zach Sharpen. I was like, hey, go for it. And then a lot of people I know around the business as well. I'm like, hey, if you can graduate early, like, go for it. Try and work in minor league baseball for the 2023 year. So I figured I had to graduate early. It was a long journey to get there. There was a time where I was thinking of doing like online classes to finish up my degree, but I was able to figure out how to finish it in January. So throughout that entire fall, I sent out so many emails. I used to sit in the back of class and go through every minor league team's website and see if they had a broadcaster listed, and then to go through teamwork and then go through the STAA job boards to see what was available and around. And I applied for the Biloxi Shuckers job. At the time, it was a number two as an assistant. So I had applied and gotten that job in December, which was really awesome, and it took a lot of weight off my shoulders to know where I was going. Come February, and I moved down and started working right after Valentine's Day. I think Valentine's Day might have been my first day back in 2023.
You mentioned the people that helped you get there, and we're going to talk about what the Shuckers experience has been like since then. But for you, especially, I've talked about it with people on here, but it really rings true for you. Just how important has it been for you to have the supportive baseball community that you have had, whether it is other broadcasters that you've had listen to your tapes, whether it's, managers from former stops, still being in contact with you. Because for as large as the sport is, the world of communication in baseball is very small, that everyone does know everybody. How important has that been, keeping your baseball network and how every little turn you take in this game seems to be connected and you get to keep moving forward because of the great people in the sport.
Oh, it's gigantic, and it's one of the really cool things about this sport, and about this realm and the job of baseball broadcasting is there's only 120 minor league teams. So there's not that many broadcasters in minor league baseball. And we're all connected one way or another, which is really, really cool and really, really exciting. But it's not even the broadcasters. Like even now, there are scouts that I'm good friends with just from them covering the Brewers for a number of years while I've been in Biloxi. Players that have come through Biloxi that I, still know at the big league level, or players that, managers and stuff and people that I work with in indie ball or the Doc Spiders. I mean, I'm still in touch with Jim Mijudek, my GM in Fond du Lac on a weekly basis. So it's really fun to have those connections with people, build those connections with people, especially the former broadcasters who have seen me grown from the time I was about 10 up until now, which is really, really cool to see. They've listened to my first tape and they've listened to my latest tape. It's a little bit different in both those tapes, which is really good, and it's a lot of testament to their teachings and advice and feedback that I've been able to implement on air for me.
How cool has it been for the players that you've seen, now in year three for you? Obviously, everyone knows about Jackson Churio now. He gets, the crazy, unprecedented deal. But you saw that talent when he was in Double A. Guys like Jacob Mizorowski who can, run it up on the radar again with anybody. You've had some cool talent down there, and how cool has it been to watch those talents start to develop and what's now year three for you?
It's been really cool. And I think moreover the fact they're good players, they're really good people, and that makes my job so cool. Like they're so fun to just hang around with and talk, whether it's during batting practice, during pitcher stretch, pregame. Like it's just so much fun to be around those guys and to see kind of their growth. Like Shane Smith's one of them who last year came in as a reliever and everyone kind of thought, all right, this will be a back end guy. I was like, all right, him and Justin Yeager are probably the Shuckers closers. All of a sudden he becomes a starter, puts together an incredible season, gets picked in the Rule 5 draft. And then all of a sudden he's dicing up the Red Sox at Fenway Park a year after he was pitching with the Biloxi Shuckers. So it's really cool. And guys like Churio, obviously you could see the stardom. But even guys like an Isaac Collins, who is pretty much now a regular on the bench bat for the Brewers. Like that's so cool to see just because the journey he's taken to get there and stuff. And that's cool. Like you root for the stories and the people more than anything else in this game. And to see that come to fruition and you can kind of see the growth is one of the coolest parts about the job.
The Shane part is cool, especially because you and I were texting quite a bit before he made that start in Boston. I was there covering the game for MLB.com. And it was cool because right when he took the mound, you didn't even have to look. All I heard from the press box was this massive roar down the third base line. And you look down in a section further, past into the outfield, foul ground section, down the line of Fenway Park. And there was probably a good, 200. It felt like there was like 200 people in that section just going nuts for Shane. And you could hear you'd see a strikeout in the box, and then just the way the sound travels at Fenway, you'd like a 3 second delay, and then you'd hear the roar from that section. To see like stories like that, especially a kid, that you had said, had done so well for you guys down in Double A, see him come home to a ballpark he grew up idolizing, stuff like that is cool, and that's why you get into baseball storytelling, whether it is writing, broadcasting. Those are the stories you hope to tell.
Well, and it also adds a little oomph because he's a Massachusetts kid, and you and I both know that the amount of major league players from Massachusetts are few and far between. Quite frankly, the cold weather states don't do too well with baseball. Massachusetts is great for hockey. They're not really a big baseball state. It's not your Floridas and Texases and California. So anytime there's a good guy from Mass who makes it to the big leagues, it's cool to see.
It's great to see that you still do have that little corner of Massachusetts left in your heart, given how far baseball is taking you to North Carolina, Wisconsin, Mississippi, and then all the stops that you go on the road as well. You're on
Hey,
the road now.
cold weather baseball.
You're on the road now. Take me through what is a day on the road as a minor league broadcaster?
Oh, day in the road starts right there. You wake up. This is a hotel room. It's a standard hotel room. It's your DoubleTrees, your Hampton Inns, your Holiday Inns. But no, so wake up, get to work. Have some coffee and start right away with the game notes. And getting set for that night's game. See if there's anything I got to do, whether it's because I manage our website and do all of our media relations. So whether there's anything I need to write, whether there's anything I need to update with our website on the back end, whether it's adding a page or a ticket link or something like that. Um, Doing all that, then find some lunch, whether it's, door dashing something or you're walking around to a local restaurant or a place nearby. It kind of depends on just what's near the hotel. But we run a lot of Jersey Mike's and tropical smoothie on the as a baseball team on the road. I'll tell you that much. But no, so being able to do that and then hop on the bus, get to the ballpark. I usually like to take the staff bus, which is anywhere between noon and 1. Except on our late days, which is Thursday. Sometimes it's a little later, like today, which is why we're doing this from the hotel room. And then you get to the ballpark and you get set and ready to go. I'll usually make sure to fill out my book. A lot of it before pitcher stretch. I'll try to make sure as much of it's done before a pitcher stretch as possible. Go out, talk to our pitchers. Then visiting BP happens. I'll go back up and finish up my book and hang out and stuff like that. And then go down for RBP and get pregame, whether it's a pitcher or a hitter after one of the two, get my pregame interview, then back to the booth, grab some food, saddle up and get ready to go for the broadcast. That's a pregame show that starts 20 minutes before first pitch. And then first pitch, roll it out and get ready to go.
What is the best part of this job to you? Because I think we've talked to a couple other minor league broadcasters on here that For you guys, it is so much more than just putting the headset on. And it's almost like a reward at the end of the day to just kind of settle in. You can take a deep breath. And it almost is like the part that you're judged on the most, right, in terms of your career growth, is almost just like that, like last, like deep breath at the end of the day. I know you enjoy the media relation stuff. I know, like you love putting the game notes together in the morning. Like they can be taxing, but you love that grind. Um, as a minor league broadcaster, what's the best part of this job?
I think honestly, the most rewarding and best part of the job is 2 o'clock on. When the game starts, it's awesome, but the stuff that you do between 2 and 6 is what helps you make a good broadcast come 6:30. You can get all the notes and stuff in the morning. But the stuff that you find out during whether the pitchers are throwing, during the pregame interview, during BP is what help makes that broadcast really good. So like that time, I refer to it as hanging out. It's more of a like fact-finding mission, but you're around the guys, whether it's at BP, whether you're noticing, hey, maybe a guy's swinging a different bat. Maybe a guy's got bright pink batting gloves, which Ramon Rodriguez, our catcher, wears during batting practice. And that turns into a great story that he talked about yesterday, that he wears it for his youngest daughter because she loves the color pink. And I'll wear it during BP and sometimes during the game as well. Sometimes you notice that during pitcher stretch, maybe a guy's listening to music, or maybe a guy's doing a lot of yoga out in the outfield. You're like, hey, are you a big yoga guy, or are you a big outdoors guy? And you can kind of get into those conversations and stuff. And that even includes the pregame interviews. I mean, I'm really fortunate. The Brewers organization is full of so many great people from top down with rovers and coordinators, and our coaching staff is terrific. But being able to talk to guys like Pat Casey, former Oregon State head coach, who is now with the Brewers organization, guys like Will Shearholes, who's our pitching coordinator, all the guys from the top down, Brenton Del Chiaro, who's our hitting coordinator, to get that insight from the people at the top of the organization down, our coaching staff, and then our players. Like it just helps you so much on air to be able to talk about everything because in minor league baseball, you are the media relations department. You are the news department as well. It's not like in the big leagues where, you might go to, like, let's say for the Brewers, you're going to the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel and Kurt Hoag's written a great piece on Orange lifesavers in the clubhouse. That's on you to find that story. And nobody else is writing it. Like that's on you to make sure that you can find that story. So that's why being down at BP is so important. Being down at pitcher stretch is so important. Watching bullpens is so important. Like that is so vitally important because come 6:35, all that information that I've found out, I've written down, I got my noggin, I've done for the game notes, I've looked up. That all comes into play starting with the pregame show and first pitch. And that's where it all comes together. So, the 2 o'clock on is great because you get everything during BP and pitcher stretch and everything. And then first pitch happens. And it's all on you to make sure that you can craft 9 innings of a good broadcast. And I love it. So much fun.
What's big in your process? I know, for basketball in the like with the winter, it's charts, it's football charts. Baseball's obviously different, and I know so much of your prep is really just doing the game notes every day. I know you had your scorebook next to you earlier. Kind of what's your process and make sure you have all your information kind of handy and ready to rock and roll for a game.
This puppy right here. It's a thick, thick paper. Staples, well, no, was it Office Depot? Staples one. They did a terrific job this offseason. This thing's terrific. So basically, my scorebook is the big one. The game notes are big, the picture pages are big, but I'm such a visual person that I have to write it down to remember. So like if I write it in game notes, that's great. But if I have to write it down in my book, to make sure that like I can remember it for on air. That's just how my brain works. I'm also a big colors guy. So I know this is audio and videos. So we got basically my book is filled of so many colors and notes and written things. This is from our game last night against the Clingstones. But this is all the notes and information that I need for a game. So you look at the player boxes, like Cooper Pratt, for example, he's a right-handed bat, and then all of his stats for the year: 340 OBP, 755 OPS, and then the yellow highlight means he leads the team with 6 steals. But then he also, you see here, he hasn't gotten a hit in 2 games. When he gets a hit in the eighth inning, I can go, that snaps a 2-game hitless streak for Pratt. He's also reached base 14 straight games, which is the longest on the team. So then right here's a little note of on air I can talk about, hey, he's reached base in 14 straight, and he's got an 869 OPS, which is 200 points above the league average. That's really good. And then it's all stuff up and down, obviously, player notes, and then the team notes here, like, we've won like sixth plus Magic, which is sixth inning or later. We've scored 29 of our last 43 runs in our last 6 games in the sixth inning or later with a team average of 341 and a 1049 OPS. So last night, when you get to the sixth inning and we score 3 runs, I can go, well, they've now scored 32 of their last 46 runs in the sixth inning or later. That's absurd. And then that helps craft pregame interviews and stuff. Like I'm talking to our hitting coach, like, hey, what is going on with this? Is it taking good at bats early so it sets yourself up for later? And that's what I asked Ramon about yesterday in pregame. It was like, hey, you guys are taking good at bats early. Are you trying to take your best ABs early pitch wise so that come later they try and get something by you and they just can't because you guys have worked a 6 pitch at bat your first AB, so you've seen everything. And that's what it is. And this is how you craft the conversations and stories. And then on top of everything that's in this book, like even from the pitcher side of things, like John Carlos Lara started. Well, versus the Shuckers, he's given up 10 runs in 5 innings with 7 walks. In the third inning is the troublesome inning this year. He's given up 10 runs, 5 walks, and guys are 8 for 16 against him. So last night when he goes a 1-2-3 third, I go, well, this is out of the ordinary. And you can talk about how he struggled throughout the third inning. Maybe this third inning is a turning point in this season. But on top of that, I'll also have a bunch of scrap paper that I'll just write things down on, whether it's stories that are mapped out of like, hey, here are 3 big bullet points for a story. Like for Garrett Spain, here's 3 bullet points about how he found out he got taken in the minor league Rule 5 draft. And here's how he found out and to work on to on air. So that's also next to me. And then I also have the game notes and the stat packs and everything that have all the information on the pitchers. So there's a lot that goes into it, but I can't do it. Like you can do a game with less, but I just don't like that's the comfort level of everything. Do I use half of it? No. Do I even use a quarter of it? No. But it's got to be there because if you don't use it, it's going to happen. The one game's going to happen where everything's going to happen. You're going to need it.
That's why we bring you on here. Like this is exactly like the baseball nerd stuff that I wanted is exactly the 5 minute segment that you
Well,
just
we
gave
can go
me.
down the list of why I use 5 different highlighters in my book. So I do use 5 different highlighters in my book. Like I'm absurdly visual. Like every strikeout has an arrow, and whatever way the arrow points or looks like is a pitch. Like an arrow that's like curved up and down is a curveball. Like a triangle pointing up is a changeup. A arrow up is the fastball, but like where it is on the box of the batter is where it is for like the pitch. So like you see here, this is a cutter to Adams. He struck him out. So he struck him out looking on a cutter low and away, and then struck him out swinging on a cutter low and away. That's been the pitch that's missed him. So when he comes up later in the game, say, hey, he's 0 for 2 tonight, struck out twice in a cutter. And then obviously they hung him a fastball and he hit it about 800 feet for a 2-run homer. But it just adds stuff to the story that you need. And also the big thing about 5 highlighters is I put 3 on one side of my book, 2 on the other, and that's how I track the count. Because back when I started, in the Cape League and Indie Ball, you can never trust the balls and strikes in the scoreboard. So I got so mad at always getting the count wrong on air because I was reading the scoreboard and I was like, here's the 2-1, and it was 2-0. I just was like, I have to use the highlighter. So 3 on one side for the balls, 2 on the other side for strikes. And I will literally manually move them down with my hand between pitches to signify ball 1 strike. And then during an at bat, like I'll either put my hands down or I'll visually look at it and be like, all right, counts at 1-1. So if I ever forget, it's always there and I always know it.
You're insane,
Which is
but in the best
it's
way.
it's but it goes through like how I call a game. Like I look at my book, green is hits. And that's so I just every box that has green, hit, hit, hit. So like let's say, they get 4 hits in an inning. Well, I go like let's look at the sixth inning. It's hey, here's 4 greens. Green, 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 green. 4 hits in the inning. So that way when the inning ends, I can say, all right, they struck out twice, sac fly, stolen base, 3 hits, and a walk. So that way I can visually look at it and then I can go back, like let's say next time up and I mark where the ball goes and everything, like, hey, he's singled through the left side. So if he does it again, it's hey, he's done the same thing 2 straight at bats and gotten on base. And that is how whenever you watch a game and you wonder why isn't that how in the world does the broadcaster remember all this? It's because I don't know if we all do it to this degree, but there's a lot of little notes and things that help me remember because my memory on air is outside of the game is great, but on air, like I need to visually write things down so that way I don't remember or I think I don't remember what happened. Like it just has to be there, or else I'm not gonna be able to be like, all right, I know that happened last time up.
Outstanding. I know that you're very focused on the season, but moving forward, I know that the goals always, from the time you were 12 and LSN was starting, was to be a big league broadcaster. Um, you know, how close do you feel that you're making progress on that, and what is still ahead for you? What aspirations do you hold that motivate you through, when you get to it, a Wednesday game in August and you're really starting to feel the grind of the season? What aspiration is keeping you going in that and really propels your career?
Well, in those days, a lot of caffeine is really propelling me on those days for sure. But no, I think it's obviously I believe I've gotten better in my 3 years in Biloxi by virtue of calling 9 innings every single night for 138 games for now my third season. But I think the goal is to always want to get better. And I don't think I'm ever satisfied with where I'm at. Like there are days where like I got it. And then in the fifth inning, I'm like, I don't got it. We got to get back to where we were in the third inning on this pitch because that's what it needs to sound like. And I am meticulous, maybe to a fault of what I sound like on air, and where I need to be, because I have in my mind of where I want it to sound. And it's not like oh, I want to sound like somebody else. It's, hey, this is how I know my voice works. I need it to work in this direction. It's like a pitcher or a hitter. More like a pitcher, because you can tune your craft a little bit more as a pitcher than a hitter. But like it's like knowing where you need to go. And that's from talking to other people, getting feedback on my tapes and my demos and such. And obviously the goal is the big league level. But back, forget who I heard. I think it was Jeff Levering when he was with the Pawtucket Red Sox, the old Worcester Red Sox, RIP McCoy Stadium. But he talked about that in minor league baseball, someone told him that you're judged word by word on air as a broadcaster, and I take that to a T. And I really think that's how it is. You know, you're judged word by word on how you are on air, and I think that that is so accurate, and it's so much how I hold myself on air is it's got to be word by word by word. And there are words that you don't use, like you don't say or I pride myself on hopefully never saying those two words on air, always being ahead of the pitch, the fundamental stuff, and then having fun with it. Like sometimes you talk about soft pretzels and there's a foot by foot soft pretzel on it, that somebody's walking by with, and they have pup cups in the ballpark, and you talk about pup cups and dogs for a half inning. But using those and figuring out how my voice works, I think is something that's been a very big growth piece for me, especially on air of like, hey, my voice is not like, I know my voice is not super deep. Like I don't have like a booming announcer's voice. Like I just talk like me, using my voice to be myself on air. And I think that is the key to just being where I want to get at. And I think it's not quite like a carrot chasing a carrot, but knowing where I need to be, working to get there. And then once I get to that spot, well, I'm sure there's going to be other things that I'm trying to work on. And then you go from there. So it's like a step by step by step approach. And I'm sure it's the same way in the big leagues. Like guys in the big leagues, I don't think are, if you're ever satisfied with where you are as a broadcaster, I think you should probably hang them up because you're never going to call a perfect game. If you think you called a perfect game, then you should just retire because you're never going to call another perfect game in your life. But I think being very meticulous about how I am on air and really being, I don't want to say being nuts about how I sound on air, but like listening back every single day to get to that spot where I want to be, I think is really, really big because at the end of the day, you're your own critic. And that's the important part as a broadcaster. Like you have to hold yourself accountable because as you know, there's nobody that's going to be in your ear after every half inning, be like, man, you weren't ahead on three pitches. Like you have to realize that you need to be at that spot and you have to basically coach yourself from other people of what you need to sound like, what it needs to be like on air. It's a very long-winded response. Basically, I will break down word by word of what I say on air to make sure that it all sounds correct, which is sometimes to a fault. You can drive yourself crazy doing that, but it's making sure that I do things the way that I believe myself should be doing things on air, Mike.
We got some rapid fire before we get you out of there. I know you have a busy day ahead in Columbus, Georgia, of another great day in Double A. I know the answer to this from you, but favorite baseball movie.
Favorite baseball movie? Oh, Little Big League. Not even close. I actually did yesterday on air. One of our guys was 4 for 9 on Wednesdays, and I pulled the line straight out of Little Big League. Like the Shuckers are up 3-2. Rodriguez is hitting 255 this year, but he's 4 for 9 on Wednesdays with three ribbies. So he's got that going for him. Anyways, the 2-2. Perfect. love that movie to death. It is by far my favorite baseball movie of all time, and I will quote it religiously. Though there really is an absent for anyone who watched the movie. There's a whole scene where they drop water balloons from the fifth store balcony onto one of their pitchers' heads, Mike McGreevy. No relation to the Cardinals pitcher. But that doesn't happen in baseball, unfortunately. The documentary is Bull Durham, and that's all. That might be a top three baseball movie because it is a documentary about the life I live on a daily basis. Nobody's dropping water balloons in Double A, though. I can guarantee you that. Maybe it happens at other levels, but not here.
I'm sure it's hard to choose one given how far into this you are, but what's your favorite baseball travel story?
Oh, baseball travel story. Like horror story or good story?
That is up to the broadcaster here.
Oh, best travel story. Best travel story. There are some funny ones, like the bus breaking down 6 hours away from home on a 2 week road trip after you lose 10 of 12, 8 of the 10 by 1 run or 2 runs or less, and then your bus breaks down halfway home and everyone piles onto one bus. That's pretty funny. We had a bus driver when I was in the Northwoods League that would give the team a pep talk before every game. It was like this older Midwestern dude. We'd pull up to Wisconsin Rapids. He'd be like, "All right, guys, let's go get him tonight. Win one for the Gipper." And I'd be like, "What?" So that was incredible. That was a lot of fun. I don't know. You go to a lot of fun places. You go to a lot of fun spots. Everywhere is a good spot. So, you come up with a lot of wild travel stories, but horror stories, it's a lot of bus breakdowns and that stuff. There are times when you wake up on the bus and you think you forgot your gear, or you think you forget a power cord, so you run to Walmart before checking your boxes to buy a new power cord, and you realize you had one the whole time. Um, yeah, a lot of them are either thinking you forgot your gear when you didn't actually forget your gear, or the bus breaking down. So it's minor league baseball. You have fun with it though.
Do you have a favorite game you've called, or if you have it specifically, a favorite call of your career?
Favorite game I've called. Well, I would say probably the big two in Double A, which was my first ever game in Double A, where Tobias Myers struck out 10 in 5 shutout innings in Pearl, Mississippi. That was a lot of fun. And then Jackson Churio's first home game with the Shuckers, where he hit 2 homers, one to right, one to left center, and walked it off in 10 innings, which was just a nutty way to start the home campaign back in 2023. So I think those would be probably the two coolest moments. But there was also when I was in Indie Ball, David Robertson pitched for the Rockers, which was super cool. I grew up a really big Yankees fan. And my second grade teacher's daughter was friends with David Robertson. So that was really cool that he pitched and he embarrassed some Gastonia Honey Hunters that night. Um, yeah, I think those are kind of the fun moments. You get a lot of them. Like Logan Morrison playing for the Rockers was nuts. He had a ball over the scoreboard that I think I fainted in the booth for. So it's all fun though. Like every game's fun. Every game has something interesting in it, and every day you're going to see something that you've never seen before.
When you're getting ready for a game, what music needs to be on, or do you prefer to be on, whether it's in the booth, on your laptop, or blasting over the ballpark speakers during BP?
I love when it's blasting over the ballpark speakers. Now, the fun thing at home is it's up to whoever turns on the music to decide the music for the day, unless the team says otherwise. So we have some country and stuff, but Sunday I threw on 90s grunge. It was incredible. We were rocking Nirvana, some Bush, some Pearl Jam, some Foo Fighters. It was a tremendous start to a Sunday. So really, what they're playing in the ballpark is what I'll go with. But obviously, if it's beforehand, I'll throw on some, maybe some alt rock. Maybe some Olivia Rodrigo or Chapel Roan will pop on there to get the boys going. But you keep it fun, you keep it light. The big thing for me is just kind of being at ease and not getting like too amped up or worked up. I think you know this. Every broadcaster does this when they're younger. You try to like pump yourself up like it's a game. Like you're like, all right, let's get going. And you can't do that as a broadcaster. Like I need to be very relaxed and at ease. And whenever music's going is always fun. So yeah.
Who's your dream broadcast partner? I know you're talking to the right answer, but in your mind, in reality, your dream broadcast partner.
Well, for the Lancer Sports Network of the hockey broadcasts in 2019 and 2018, it was definitely Tim Crowley. Very, very high standard of excellence, the Lancer Sports Network when we were 17 and 18 years old. Dream broadcast partner. I don't even have to call the game. I just think sitting next to John Sterling in his prime, like I don't even need to talk. I just want to listen to it live. I think that would be a blast to do. Just because I listened to John and Susan so much as a kid growing up in Massachusetts. And they were the kind of the ones that made me realize like, oh, like I don't go anywhere with the baseball career. That'd be kind of fun. You just talk baseball all the time. Like that's awesome. So being around them, I think would be super, super fun just because they were such a big influence on my childhood. And me wanting to become a broadcaster, I think just getting to like be in the booth and listen to them go at it. I mean, especially John and Susan, their rapport is second to none in baseball. So I think that'd be terrific.
Finally, do you have a baseball hot take for the season at the MLB level? We're about a month in, starting to see how the league's going to take shape. Do you have a hot take for the season?
A hot take. A hot take. Craig Yoho becomes a National League All-Star.
We have an audience that I think would like
Big
that.
time.
I think there's
There's
an
a
audience of ours that would like that.
I think there's a lot of audiences. I think there's a lot of Brewers fans that would like that. Um, let's see. Shane Smith might actually become an all-star with the White Sox. Just because the White Sox might really, they're going to need somebody. Shane's been their best pitcher so far. Trying to think of other hot takes. Baseball hot take. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if Jesus Mate pulls a Churio and ends up in Double A by the end of the year. If he keeps this up.
It's been great.
This is with no insider information, but Jesus Mate has an OPS like 900 at 17. He might have just turned 18 in A ball, and he's looking very much like Churio was back in 2022 when he ended the year in Biloxi. But Mate started the year 3 weeks earlier than Churio because Churio didn't start until May. Mate started in an opening day with Carolina, so. I wouldn't be surprised if he puts together just a magically absurd season. And if the Carolina Mudcats might break every Carolina league record for run scoring and offensive production this year. But no, we'll go with the big one, Craig Yoho, National League All-Star 2025.
It's been great having you on and having you talk about your process. A career that I think a lot of us have been motivated by. In terms of our friend group, you've pushed me for years, like in terms of whether I was still doing play-by-play or in any aspect of my media career. So I thank you for that. I do have to say before we go, how did you enjoy your visitors last week in Biloxi?
Oh, yeah, the Crowleys were terrific. It came out of nowhere, but it was real great to have your parents in town and to have them in the booth for a couple of innings. And they were up, and the Shuckers hit back-to-back homers, so they were the magic charm to extend what's been a really magical streak. The Shuckers started 1-7. Since then, they have won 11 of 15. They've gained exactly one game on Pensacola because the Blue Wahoos just keep on winning for some reason. But the Shuckers finally gained the game last night on Pensacola, so it was great. They've been a little fuel to this fun little run from the Shuckers here, which makes it exciting.
That's what Crowleys do. We're all about good baseball mojo, and they actually did bring back from Biloxi. They just got home this morning. Um, they brought back from Biloxi the one that I forgot to grab while I was visiting in March of 24 when we did our little ballpark tour and had a little destination concert at the Smoothie King Center in New Orleans. Was the biggest baseball collection that I have is mini bats. I have them from like every stadium I've gone to, a couple that my parents went to before I was going to games. So the Biloxi, the I guess this is royal blue, whatever color this is,
Shuckers blue,
closer.
baby.
Yeah, Shuckers blue. Yeah, added to the collection. I forgot to grab that while I was in when I was visiting last year, but Biloxi is officially in the mix.
I love it. It's perfect. It's the best way to do it. Go Shuckers.
Well, on that note, have a great broadcast tonight. Thank you so much for coming on again. Again, for Javik Blake, I'm Tim Crowley. For this episode of Connect the Game, make sure to tune in next week. And Javik, have a great broadcast tonight and throughout the rest of the season.
Thanks, Tim. Appreciate it.